Okay, this video is on factoring, and we're going to do a couple of different types of factoring. This one is going to be basically our anti-foil, and if you don't know about foiling, link in the description to the foil video. Again, I suggest you watch that so that everything kind of comes together. And this other example we're going to do has to do with pulling out a common factor, kind of like when you're finding like the least common denominator when you're doing fractions. And if anybody has questions about that, then I can always do an LCM video. Okay, so this first one, like I said, is kind of going to be our anti-foil. And what we want to look at here is how's this going to break down? I know I want to have my little parentheses here because I'm going to have two binomials, which are going to have two terms each, where this one is a trinomial where it has three terms. So I have x squared, so I know I'm going to need an x in each of these places to get this x squared when I FOIL. Now I know that I've got to have 18, got to break it down to its factors, which is what you can multiply together to get it. And then I know when I put those factors together, I have to get my negative 3. So since I have that 3 there, I'm just going to guess and say I need a 3. And I know one of these is going to have to be negative and one of them is going to have to be positive because I have a negative there. Now if you have a positive there, you're going to have to have both positive or both negative in order to wind up with a positive. The only way you can get that negative there is to have one be negative and one be positive. So 18 divided by 3 is 6. I'm just going to guess with my 6 and my 3, and sometimes that's the way you have to do this type of factoring, is especially if you've got a number right here that has a lot of factors that can be divided a lot of different ways. Sometimes you do wind up guessing till you get it right. So the way to check this setup that we have now factored down is we go back to our FOIL process, which again is why you need to watch the FOIL video if you're not familiar with it. So we're going to go with our first. That's going to give us x squared, because remember there's an implied 1 on top of these where you can't see it. The next is our outside terms, which gives me 3x. And the next is going to be our inside terms right here, which is going to give me negative 6x. And then finally comes the last terms right here, which is going to give you negative 18. Now, I know you're looking at it and going, well, this kind of looks like that. But not exactly. Because you got positive 3 and negative 6 here, and all you have is negative 3 here. Well, that's where we get back into combining like terms, because we have an x here and an x here. So we can take their coefficients, which is this number that's attached to that x, and put them together. Now we can't put them together with this one because it's got a 2 for an exponent, which is this little number up here. And all an exponent does is tell us how many of those we have. This is telling us that we really have both of these x's right here. So we're going to bring this x squared down. And we know this x is going to come down. So we just take positive 3 and negative 6. Well, positive 3 and negative 6 is negative 3. So, and then we bring our negative 18 down. And so now you see this term and that term match. And so that's how you know that you have a valid factor. Now again, like I said, sometimes it's a guessing game. The numbers in this are set up to be kind of easy because 18 doesn't have a whole lot of factors that you can divide by. But sometimes you will have a number right here that has a lot of factors, and it kind of becomes a guessing game as to what you need to get in the right place. So next example, we're not going to break it down that way. Here we have x squared minus x. And so we've got an exponent of 2 here and an exponent of 1 here. But what we see is we have an x here and an x here. So that is a common factor. Each one of them has an x. They have something that's the same. So what we do is we take that and we can pull it out and put it out here. And then what's left in our parentheses is whatever is left behind. In this case, since we only pulled one x out because there's only one x here to pull out, so we can only go with this lowest number when we pull out to here. If this was a higher number, we could pull out a higher number. And we'll do one of those in just a second. So what's left is our x, because we only pulled one of them out. So this 2, we split it up and we put one of them here and one of them there. And then this x, we were able to pull the whole thing out. And that leaves us with 1, because remember there's that implied 1 right there in front of that x. That's as far as you're going to factor that for right now. Now, like I said, if this was a bigger number, like you had x cubed minus x squared, since we have 2 here as our smallest number, we can actually pull 2 out. What we want to do is when we have something like this, we're going to go to our smallest number here, our smallest exponent, and pull all of those out. So when we pull those x2s, but remember we only pulled 2 of these out, so we move 2 of those to here. 1, 2. But we had to leave one of them right there. And since we pulled both of these out, we still are just left with our implied 1 coefficient. Like I said, I highly recommend that you also watch the video on foiling, which is basically the reverse of this process over here, which we showed right here in brief. But the FOIL video actually shows in a lot more detail. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments.